the truth.
What drives us every day is giving you all the freedom to invent. There's a bunch of launches that AWS is very excited about. We're witnessing an explosion of invention with AI. It is incredible to feel the energy as you walk through the halls here in Las Vegas. Dive deep into the details and start inventing. And we're just getting started.
Please welcome the CEO of Amazon Web Services, Matt Garman.
How's it going?
Matt.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Well, hope you've been too busy this week.
No, just been hanging out. I was out by the pool.
Thanks.
Let's see. I've seen you on Jim Cramer. I've seen you on TBPN. No poolside in either of them.
No.
How many of these media things have you done so far this week?
I've done a bunch, but it's awesome. It's such a great opportunity. It's so awesome to have all of our customers here. And as I think I just said in the thing on the video, and hopefully you guys have experienced the energy and excitement that we have when you get this many people together, not just to learn about AWS, but they learn about our partners, they learn from each other. It's a cool opportunity. Then it's been fun to build, and this is our 14th year. I remember the first year here, I think we had 2,000 or 3,000 people, and I thought it was crazy that 2,000 or 3,000 people would get together to talk about our technology, and we've grown since then.
If you had told somebody back in the .com era that in 2025, Amazon would be convening 60,000 developers in Las Vegas.
It's a lot of books or something?
Yeah.
What's the...
That would not have computed.
I distinctly remember when we launched AWS, we went to, I can't even remember what conference it was, but we had one of these booths, right? That we were saying hey, we're starting a new thing called Amazon Web Services. People are like, why would I buy computers from a bookseller? They were very confused for a while, and we eventually got them over that, but yeah.
All right, so I wanted to start today, we've been talking a lot about AI. I wanted to ask you if you could honestly put yourself in the headspace of summer 2022, before the ChatGPT moment. And if I had come up to you and said, hey, Matt, we're going to talk on stage at the 2025 reInvent, what do you think we'll be talking about? What would your honest answer have been?
It probably wasn't going to be AI and agents necessarily. But I will say it may have been AI, because I think we were at the time, even in 2022, if you go back another 10 years, maybe not, but in 2022, we were very excited about the potential of AI and saw where it was going to go. Do I think it was going to be as it is right now? Of course not. And I don't think anyone would have projected exactly that. But it wouldn't have surprised me that it was a main focus of what we were doing. We already had SageMaker. We already had a bunch of the things that we were building. So I wouldn't have been surprised that in fact, I probably would have guessed it was bigger than it would have been in 2022, that it was a bigger focus for people today, because we saw some of the early machine learning benefits, if you will, of the technology, but nothing like it. I think there's some other areas that I would have expected that have actually grown faster that haven't, and they'll get there, but I would have thought robotics would have grown faster than they have today. Actually, it's gone a little bit slower than I would have thought. In fact, I think, I can't remember, but we actually launched a service that was early. It was just ahead of its time, called RoboMaker at the time, that didn't take off because it was just robotics weren't ready for it. But yeah, I think that's some of it. But I will say it's that, and some of the challenges that our customers are facing today are remarkably consistent. We often say today less than 15 to 20% of workloads have actually moved to the cloud from on-prem. Still, and look, if you looked at, if you saw on Monday, we blew up a bunch of servers. If you saw that video. But that's all about getting rid of tech debt and helping people migrate off of mainframes and migrate off of that is all the same. People back in 2022 definitely wanted to get off of Windows and VMware and mainframes, and they have, a lot of them have, and there's still a bunch there.
It's funny, one of the principles, every time Ben and I make an episode, we try and, we're only studying the greatest companies in the world, and we try and take something from every company we study and just bring it to our little operation here. And one of the many that we brought from Amazon and Jeff is what's not going to change. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about AI and agents and all that, but even if that hadn't happened, people are still going to be moving to the cloud.
They are, and it's
10 years from now, people are still going to be
ask
moving
me,
to the
actually,
cloud.
it's funny. Some people were saying like, hey, you know what? I have a bunch of these like enterprises, and I think there's some analysts were saying this, and they're like, you know, do you think next year when you come here, like everybody will have moved to AI? I was like, no, no. Like
Only 20% of people on
It's
cloud.
been 20 years and everyone hasn't moved to the cloud yet. And for those people whose data is still locked in a mainframe, like they're definitely not jumping in and getting value out of AI yet.
When is the last year you will be moving people to the cloud?
I don't. It's not going to be 2026. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Like it's there's a long runway ahead of us for sure.
Give us a sense. I don't know if you want to frame it in terms of like revenue or workloads or compute.
Yeah.
How much of AWS right now are AI things, AI applications versus?
Yeah, I actually think that question in some ways is getting harder and harder to answer over time, right? I can tell you that AI and Bedrock is a multi-billion-dollar business. I can tell you like we sell GPUs, but like I do think that is a, in some ways kind of undersells the impact of it, right? Let's say you have an application like Workday that has like AI assistants in it and agentic workflows behind the scenes and et cetera. Like, is that an AI application? Does all of Workday count? Do you just want the GPUs that they're running? Like, what counts as AI? And so we see a massive, you know, if everybody's storing stuff in S3, right? And some of it's vector embeddings, but some of it is referencing their objects, and it's driving them to get more of their objects into S3. Is that an AI workload or not? Like I think, and actually I introduced this in my keynote last year, and I think it's more true than it's ever been, that it really is this concept of inference as a building block. There are AI applications, right? Aravind talked about Perplexity. That is an AI application, like pretty much. But I think increasingly every application will just have AI in it. There's not like a database application. There's not like a storage. I mean, there are, right? But
Everything's just a database with a CRUD wrapper on top of it.
but you know, like these are just components that you go to build interesting customer experiences or value or whatever. And when you think about Chase Payments, like is that a database application? No, it's like an interesting payments application that does really cool things. Right. Is it going to have AI in it? Yeah. And is it making an AI application? I don't know. And so I think that like today, it's definitely a multi-billion-dollar business for us. It's a huge tailwind to our business, but it's not just for the quote-unquote like model running, right? It's all of those pieces. It's people are driving to the cloud faster to get value from that AI. Their applications are getting more usage, and so it needs more CPUs. We're using more Graviton, all of those kind of pieces. And so.
There's a question we want to ask you. I think this is the right time to ask it. I apologize in advance. It's not very well baked, so maybe you can help us get
we're
there.
happy to like we can workshop it here.
Yeah, we'll workshop it live.
That's right.
AI is the first cloud-native paradigm shift, I think. Like, you can't have AI be an AI company and not be in the cloud. There's just no option. Like, yeah, sure, you could install a model on your Mac Pro or something, but like you're not gonna build a company like that. It must be in the cloud.
Yeah.
How does AWS's like job change in that? Like when you're working with AI companies, like are you a different or a bigger part of that company than you are with like a SaaS company that's like, hey, we're on AWS as our infrastructure?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I would say, in my mind, there are companies that are all in on AWS. There are companies who have their like, or the cloud generally, but AWS, they have their kind of toe in, and then there's ones that are kind of moving the majority of their workloads there, and there's probably like a continuum of those. But, you know, like I don't know that an AI native company and their relationship with us is materially different than Greg's and Netflix. I mean, they're 100% in on AWS. They have been for many, and like when they need features, like they talk to us. Like when they need functionality, when they need capability, they're great partners. We learn a ton from them, and that's true for AI companies and Netflix. And you know, could Netflix go and build data centers and run all of that stuff? Like I guess so, probably. But you know, but we have a great partnership, and they haven't needed to.
But it's just like even when you look at the foundational model companies, like they need the cloud. Like they're not building their own. You know, like they need it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's I don't know if they need it, by the way. Like I think some of these large companies, OpenAI has talked about going and building Stargate or whatever it is. They can build data centers. Now, you know, are they going to run them as efficiency? Is it a good use of their capital? Like all of those things are all good questions that I think lots of people ask, and those are open questions, but it's possible, right? There's nothing that's impossible for them to do, but I don't know why they would, right? And they get a lot of benefits from the cloud. They get a lot of benefits from the customers also being in the cloud, right? And that is really powerful. I think particularly when you move away from consumer applications. For consumer applications, like you get a lot of benefits of scale, you get a lot of benefits of the technology pieces. When you get to enterprise applications, you also get benefits because your customers are in that same cloud. And you can deploy those models into your VPC, you can be in a secure environment, and there's a lot of really great flywheel things that happen there where those enterprises trust AWS, they trust us with their data security, they trust us with a bunch of those things that we've built up over the last 20 years, where then a new startup that has a new model that's exciting can put it on Bedrock and just get some of that trust level, which is cool because it takes a while to build
And
that.
access the enterprise.
That's right.
Yeah, totally.
So David asked a question earlier that I want to reframe for you. So I used to be a web developer. I haven't written code. Me and Claude wrote some code earlier this week, but I haven't sat down in a text editor and myself written the first
You
line
actually
of code.
built.
The good news is not many people are going to do that going forward.
That's true.
Acquired has never had a piece of software
We do
really,
have a software
and
suite now.
we now have a software, a Claude generated software.
Pile of scripts that I run to do things.
Good. I'm not going to ask you where you deployed them, but I hope it was on.
They're not deployed.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay,
no, no,
okay.
no.
They're
It's
not
not a public.
We'll talk
facing,
afterwards. We'll get you an account manager. Okay.
It used to be, 5 years ago, extremely obvious if you said, how do you build a web app? It's a pretty settled frontier. There's very off-the-shelf components. Everybody's sort of using the same paradigms. There's languages, there's frameworks, there's S3, and there's EC2. And David came up to me earlier today, and he's like, do you know how to build an AI app or an AI company? I was like, I don't actually know what the core building blocks are. I mean, I know there's these models.
Yeah.
Do you feel like all the cards just got thrown up in the air?
No,
or is it actually more?
I mean, yes and no. I would say that there's a couple of pieces that I would say to that. I think on the first part, I would challenge you to build an interesting AI app without using some sort of compute and storage and databases. You probably not. Right? It turns out that all of those things still need that
And a
because it turns
CDN
out that
and,
when you have the front end of a chatbot, CPUs are the most effective way of rendering that web page. It is. That is true. You're going to need a bunch of storage. So all of those components are the same and similar. And I remember actually, and I'll just as an aside, I remember when mobile first started getting big, and people were like, we need to build mobile building blocks. And then I was like, are there different servers that you need for a mobile app? And it turned out no, actually. It was there's some front-end development tools and things that were different, but not really. You still needed compute and storage and databases. And now in AI is different in that I do think, and this goes back to what I was just saying earlier, I think inference is one of those new building blocks that was never a developer building block before. So it's like the world invented a new Lego. You had all your Legos and you could build whatever, and they've now invented some new Lego that was never possible before. And you're like, whoa, that is a cool new Lego. I can build incredible things with that. I still need all the other Legos I had before, but now I can take this one and build some super interesting things with it. And agents are kind of an extension of that, where now you're going to be able to build completely new experiences. You're still going to it turns out Lambda is actually a great execution engine for a lot of agents workflows where you can call the model and do stuff, but you actually need a compute environment to go do that. And so that, I think, is how you would think about that. I think, by the way, though, there's a lot of things that do change, right? How you go to market might change, how you think about how you deliver a user experience is going to change. I actually think, by the way, and this is one of the things that a lot of, as I talk to a bunch of customers out there, org structures are going to change. If you're starting a company, I don't know that it's the exact org structure that we've used for the last 20 years to organize a development team. A lot of those things may actually change.
What's different?
I think you can deliver with much smaller teams. So a huge effort that used to take dozens, if not hundreds of people, may take 10 people or 5 people or something like that, and you can deliver just as much and maybe faster.
We were in an event with the CEO of Cursor a couple months ago, and it's it's just a tiny team. So
Yeah,
they may have
exactly.
100 people now, maybe not even.
I heard they did pass 100, so I think they passed 100. But yeah, you just need tiny teams, and even there, as we're finding it, the roles may change. You may not have a traditional dev manager. You may have actually a dev lead, because the dev lead can actually dive in and actually help design some of the things. The whole org structure may just change. I don't know the answers to that, but with those capabilities and how you think about that software development lifecycle, I think a lot of those things will change.
I mean, I got to imagine there is no more exciting thing for Amazon and AWS than the invention of a new Lego, a new Lego block.
Yeah.
That's I mean, this happens every 20 or 30 years, and like this is the biggest needle mover that could happen for your business.
Yeah, well, it's both exciting for a business perspective, but I will tell you, like, it's exciting because it means you get to go build new things. Like, it's not just like polishing the old thing. Like, part of why everybody, like, why I think reInvent is so popular with a bunch of people is that when we first launched it, we didn't launch this as a marketing conference, as like a traditional kind of like, and those are popular and lots of people have those marketing conferences. But if you go and you look in the hallways out there, right, it's like people on their laptops, they're out there doing work sessions, they actually are doing hackathons, like we're doing, like this is meant to be a learning conference where people can learn how to use new technologies. And most of the sessions here are not given by Amazon people, they're given by customers who want to share what they've learned. And when there's a new building block, like developers' eyes light up. They're like, "Ooh, what can I build with that?" And so it's for me, it's exciting for that. Like it is a great business opportunity, don't get me wrong, but like that ability to go build some really cool new things like Perplexity that wasn't a possible thing that you would have built in 2022, and now it is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you're one of the most important platforms in the world. The job to be done of a platform is to build a set of capabilities that other people can build things on top of.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means building your own either demonstrations of those capabilities or just extending the layer a little bit and doing some of the applications yourself.
Yeah.
And some of the agents you announced earlier this week are an example of that, where you sort of have a first or best-in-class version of it.
Yeah.
Philosophically, how do you decide when should we do this and when should we leave it to customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. And by the way, there is no magic answer. It's not like there's like a very clear, cut and dry answer for what that is. We always think that our ecosystem of partners is an incredibly important and impactful thing for growing our business and for helping our customers. There's a cool stat I saw earlier this week that partners usually drive about $7 of revenue for every $1 of revenue they drive for AWS. Just like that's pretty awesome for them, and it's like a huge opportunity for everyone. And we think about how we deliver value up and down that entire level of the stack. And if you think about it is a funnel of the like number of opportunities, right? Because if you think about that top layer that's driving $7 for every dollar, that is just a massive, massive business opportunity. And so there are thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of applications at that level. We think we'll have a couple of successful ones up there. And we do today, right? And we will continue to have a handful of those. And you mentioned we launched things like our frontier agents in the software development space. At that top layer, and we think about where can we add differentiated value. But it is a funnel. Like you go down to the bottom, there's cloud, right? And then you go up to this next layer, and we'll take whether it's models or databases or other kind of pieces or analytics engines and things like that, where we do, compete with some of our customers, but in a very positive way for both of us, where if you land on MongoDB or you land on Snowflake or you land on Databricks or any of the other partners at that level, great. As long as it's running on AWS, we love that, right?
And
by the way,
heads, I win. Tails, I win.
Well, and we have a lot of products in that space too, right? We have tons of customers who love using OpenSearch. We have tons of customers who love using Aurora and all of our stuff at that level, and we compete at that space, right? But there's a real kind of partnership there where everybody is growing huge, really successful businesses at that level, and there's dozens, maybe hundreds of companies at that level, and then you go to this top level, and that's where there's millions. And so that's where, at that top level in particular, I think we're going to build stuff at these first two levels, like for most of those things. And we'll compete with people, but there's not that many things at that level that just doesn't make sense for us to not have a native solution for. And customers always tell us this, right?
Customers are going to demand it.
They largely say, I want you to deliver something of that.
It's a good thing you have Redshift.
Yeah. I think if you go to this top layer, there's lots of things that, there's no way that we could possibly build all of them. And so we build some where we think we have a particular, either a competitive advantage, or there's something at Amazon or AWS where we have an expertise and or a different way of approaching the problem that we think delivers differentiated results. I think actually one of the things that Amazon is particularly bad at is being a fast follower. When we try to copy someone, we're just bad at it. And so we just don't. But if we can innovate and we can go build something different or that we think is differentiated.
A couple of infamous Amazon products from history, but I'll
We're just, we're not great at it because
Yeah.
we actually, when we should fast follow, we still have this inherent thing like we should do something different, and then we usually mess it up. So we just don't, we're just bad at that thing. But when we think first principles about solving a customer problem and we can do it differently, take these kind of frontier agents where like we know developers, like we really know what they want, we understand AI, we see some of the struggles that they're having with the first generation of AI development tools, where kind of vibe coding is good, but gets you to a place where it's not structured, it doesn't help you develop in an enterprise environment, it doesn't allow you to really have agents go and be autonomous and drive fast. And we saw some of these observations. We think that we have some ways to differentiate and deliver that. And we have the same thing about cloud operations, right? We're thinking about a DevOps agent, and they could go and autonomously go and help you find problems in your infrastructure. Like, we have a lot of data there. We have a lot of knowledge about what best practices are, how we can help you do that. Same with security. We think we do some of the best security work in the world. We see more problems than anybody does. We have solutions across them. We think we can deliver a differentiated product in those spaces. And so that's when we go after it. And we're not always right. We don't have a 100% batting average, but that's kind of how we think about it.
I like your 3 stages of the funnel. What stage do you think agents are? I mean, they're not the bottom. They're not the cloud.
Yeah.
Are they the millions or are they the
I think
thousands?
the agents, so if you think about that, they're definitely at the bottom. I think agent core is that middle layer, right? And so the agent core is these building blocks where it's like you have a secure compute environment that you can run your agent in that gives you like an isolated compute environment. You can do gateways where it's like, okay, you have permissions, and so your agents can go talk to other agents, they can talk to tools that have fine-grained permissions, et cetera. So all these kind of building blocks to go build the agents on, we kind of think is somewhere in that middle layer. It still builds on our core building blocks, but it really makes it much easier and more secure to build like a wide range of agents in a real enterprise world where you can have an audit log, you can have controls, you can do a bunch of the things you want to do. And then the actual agents that people build are probably more at that application layer. But I don't know. It's new.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Who
right.
knows? It might take,
Well, okay.
my answer may change in a month.
That was our next question. We're back here a year from now.
Yeah.
What is the conversation about agents in 12 months?
Look, I think just like any technology, I think that there's still going to be a bunch of people trying to figure out how to work them into their environment. And I think almost for sure over the next year, you're going to see a ton of people getting a huge amount of value from agents. I do think that it is. When you kind of look at that value creation, where you think about content summarization, you think about content creation, as opposed to like actually going and accomplishing tasks, like the value to an enterprise is so much bigger for that second thing, because it really explodes out to like not just like summarize what happened, but actually go process my insurance claims. Like that is a totally different unlock for value. And I think we'll start to see some really, really, really compelling use cases that, frankly, I'm going to be really bad about predicting right now. But that's part of what I love about AWS. It's actually one of the things we've always loved is we build these building blocks, we give this technology, and then we let the world have the creativity to go find some really cool things for them. And I think next year we'll have some really awesome use cases to highlight.
It's interesting to think about the agents as a paradigm, because you flash back 30 years ago, the web happens, we have websites. Then mobile happens, we have apps. AI happens, and in 2022, we get these bare models with like a chat interface slapped on top. A couple more years go by, and now we have this notion of agents. What do you think the dominant paradigm is in the AI era? Is it agents? Is that going to be the sort of app of AI?
It's not really how I think about it, but that's an interesting question. I think that's slightly different. Like, I'm not sure that those are equivalent paradigms necessarily. They're like somewhat orthogonal, because you have like part of what was interesting about the web was it was like a different platform to actually go interact with and build stuff on top of, and there was the user interface was different, and like you could, and so that was like you had to build a website, right? When you had your phone, like you had to how do you shrink it down? How do you actually have an app that's native and has capabilities? But like the application and a lot of the things you could do were mobile and things. So I think with agents, it's more like a capability. By the way, someone may invent a new way of consuming those things, which would be interesting, and I think would be some of those shifts. Today, I think in some ways, it's a complementary technology. Like the chatbot that you example, Turns out that's a website. It's not like it's not a website, right? The website was actually something different. It wasn't an application that was on your computer. It was a website. The mobile app was a different thing. It was actually on your phone. These are things that are some ways complementary and supercharging the things that you already have.
Right.
Doesn't mean someone won't come up with it yet, but and it may or may not. But in some ways, it's like I assume that my mobile apps will have agents that are working for me behind the scenes. I assume that my websites will have AI and agents built into them, like all of those kind of things. So I don't know. Someone may build something different, but they haven't yet.
Agent management still feels really messy to me. Like,
That's true. I believe there will be some interesting applications around agent management for sure. And that is a very unsolved problem. I think it's an interesting one that someone out there should go build or think about.
To put more structure around it, I mean, if I pull up a website, it's very obvious what the website is. If I pull up my phone, I've got a UI, that's my mobile app. And if I have agents acting on my behalf all throughout the world with this new compute paradigm, I don't know how to track or manage them.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting, but at the same time, you have, when you click the button on a website, there's like a database query that's going and doing work for you behind the scenes. You don't know how to do that either. So maybe you don't have to. I don't know. Like maybe that's the job of everybody else to kind of figure, not everyone, like the individual, like whoever has the website, it's their job to make sure that like your database query actually works. Sometimes you get a crashed website and it didn't, but yes, otherwise that's, so maybe, right? But I do think that there's an interesting, if there really are a bunch of these autonomous agents, which I do believe there are gonna be, there is gonna need to be some way of coordinating across them. Because in a world of billions of agents, like no one can like keep billions of things in their heads. And so, but in the same way that there's billions of compute processes, like we have to come up with a good kind of router and orchestration engine to manage all of those. No person's gonna manage those, of course.
Nice. For our next set of questions, we'll keep going with AI and it'll be related, but we really want to ask about you too. Like you're in a very, very interesting position and to start with AI and transition here, you spend a lot of time with a lot of CEOs. I'm sure they are asking your thoughts. What are CEOs asking you and asking AWS about AI when they're coming to you with problems?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I do get fortunate that I think it's fortunate for us that cloud and AI has elevated to it is actually like a CEO level thing, right? Technology used to be something that CEOs.
It's funny, we were drafting this question. We said CEOs and CTOs, and like, well, CTOs, sure, yeah, but I bet CEOs are the ones.
CEOs, it is a CEO level question now, right? What is your cloud strategy? What's your AI strategy? Like those are CEO level questions, which by the way is great and cool for us. And what they're thinking about, it's not too dissimilar than some of the things that we're talking about. I think one, they're thinking about they see kind of the trend, and I think particularly if you go with established, there's a little bit different, right? If you're the CEO of a AI startup company, it's a little bit different, right? So, but if you take that, if you're saying like enterprise side of like someone who established business, they are trying to balance the fact that they realize there is a real risk that they could get disrupted with this technology. Like there is a very real risk that 100-year-old enterprises like Chase could get disrupted if they don't lean forward and figure out how to stay ahead of this technology. Now, look, they still have the pole position. Don't get me wrong. Like if you're a bank, if you're a bank, you would definitely rather be J.P. Morgan than like a brand new startup. Yeah. But the risk is there, right? And so that risk is very real. And so I think a lot of people are thinking about how do they. But a lot of businesses out there, frankly, are not used to moving fast, right? They actually got to where they are by being conservative, by making sure they didn't make big mistakes, right? And there was like, and so I get that. If you're an insurance company that's a 100-year-old insurance company, you got to where you are by making sure you didn't like make dumb bets or do something that's bad.
We just covered Coca-Cola as our most recent episode, and I mean Coca-Cola did amazing, innovative things, and then like the worst thing they ever did. Which turned into the best thing was New Coke. You don't do New Coke.
That's right. You just want to do. You don't want to be the one that did New Coke. Right. But they're also recognizing that, like, if they stick on that path and they're still slow and conservative, like this may be the thing that kills them. So I think a lot of people are thinking about how do they make sure that their team has the right skills to be competitive in the world today with AI. How do they make sure that their data and that their infrastructure is set up in the right way? I think they're thinking about, do they need to hire or train for new skill sets? They're thinking about, do they need to organize differently so that they can move fast? And you mentioned earlier kind of thinking about, like Jeff said, like what are the things that don't change? I actually think that in today's world, one of the things you want to be thinking about, which won't matter what the next technology is how do you make sure you can move fast and be agile? Like those are skills that are not going to go out of style, right? We're not going to get to a world where it's like, man, I wish we were less agile, right? and particularly in today's world, like that is
Man, I
just
wish
not
stuff
gonna
were
be
more
true.
expensive on
Yeah, exactly.
Amazon.com. Right, exactly. Never gonna
And
happen.
so, I do think that that's where a lot of the leaders are thinking about right now, because they're thinking about, look, as a CEO, there's not that many things you can impact. You can impact who your leadership team is. You can, where the direction you're going is, what the structure of it is, kind of what some of the goals are. And so that's what a lot of people are thinking about.
Can I ask the opposite question? So when you go and you talk with your mentors and other CEOs
peers,
and board members who give you advice, what are the questions that you're asking them?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I do a lot of that because I'm only I think it's like year 2 or something of me being a CEO, so I'm still learning. Part of that is, and I think everybody actually, any good CEO is hopefully, or any good leader is hopefully spending a lot of their time learning. So there's a lot that I don't know about. I love just picking up tips on how do you think about leading at scale? How do you think about rapid decision making? How do you think about pushing decision making down to your teams? And I think that's one of the ways that you do real rapid decision making is don't make decisions and get your team enabled to make decisions. But picking up like how to do that and what are the subtle things that you do, what are the areas that you don't do. And by the way, sometimes you get advice and you're like, interesting, I'm not going to do that. I sat down with Jensen, he gave me some good advice and he told me what he did. I'm like, I'm not going to have 70 directs. Like, it's not going to do that. Like, okay, I appreciate that works for you. I'm not going to do that. I think that is, but assimilating all that and then trying to figure out what works for you and your culture and your business, but it's incredibly valuable. And I appreciate every time a CEO or leader is willing to take some time and share what works for them and have that conversation is just so valuable because kind of assimilating all of those different data points is incredibly helpful because these jobs are hard and they're fast moving and we all want to do well for our company and our customers and our shareholders but trying to pick up tips is helpful for sure.
I don't know how many folks in the audience know this. We know this. You started as a dev manager.
Intern
for EC2,
intern,
right?
Yeah.
Early days of EC2.
I was actually AWS. I interned at a business school in 2005 for Andy Jassy. And when AWS was an internal project, we were building it internally. And I came and I worked on it. And I was like, holy crap, this seems awesome. and I came back basically effectively as the first product manager for AWS.
Wow.
And EC2 was the first product you worked on?
That was actually a year later. So the first year I was at AWS, I was a product manager for all of AWS.
Because it was
the product. So I was the AWS product. I was the AWS. Actually, it's not true. There was one product.
I guess you're still the AWS product manager.
There was a product manager for S3, and then I was the rest of AWS.
Okay,
so.
this nullifies my premise then. But
okay,
for audience, where we were going with this is Dave and I met Matt a few years ago when you were leading sales, go-to-market for AWS.
That was a different story. Like it was crazy how I ended up there too. Because it had been 13 years that I had been leading EC2 at the time, and then one day Andy came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to lead sales and marketing?" I literally looked at him and I said, I don't know anything about sales and marketing.
Well, that was
that was the question. Yeah.
It was like you very clearly came out of a product and technology path.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the strangest person to be leading sales. And then it kind of occurred to me, this is deliciously Amazonian.
Yeah.
But like, of course you're the person leading
sales.
sales.
He literally, and it was interesting. And I said, I don't know about sales and marketing. He's like, it's okay. He's like, you know a lot about AWS. I was like, yeah, I do. That's true. He's like, and you can operate at scale. And I was like, well, I've hopefully learned to be able to operate at scale. He's like, you'll pick up the rest of it. It'll be fine. And the teams were awesome. I will say, like, I don't know that it would work at every company, but the teams were awesome. And I sat down with some of my sales leaders, and I'd be like, can you please explain how commissions work to me? And they could have instantly flipped a bit and been like, nope, like this guy's an idiot. But no, they're like, thank you for asking. Like, great, we'd love, like, first of all, they did have like a bit of a double take when I asked those questions, but then they walk it through it, and then I go like do a bunch of research to make sure that I understand exactly how it works or whatever. And I'd find out that I feel like half of the time I would ask dumb questions, and they'd be like, that's just a dumb question. But the other half of the time, they'd be like, actually, no one's ever asked that question before, but it's a really good question. I don't know why it works that way. Like, it doesn't have to work that way. And we would go find something interesting because I didn't actually know how it worked. And just listen to what people said. So,
and then you sort of get to build it from first principles too, rather than just it's the way it's done.
That's right.
How did the sales org start within AWS? I mean, Amazon is not a sales-driven company.
Yeah, it was. We
Or a different kind of sales. Let's put it.
no, it was, we had call it when I started. I think when I started back full time, we had hired. I can't remember if it was two business development people, and our goal was to our stated goal at the time. We had a lot of hubris back in the day of like what was possible or not, but we assumed that AWS would always just be self-service, and that we would probably never need more than like 10, 20, 30 salespeople. And then it turned out that like enterprises want to talk to a human. They didn't want to just swipe their credit card and just use compute. And as we got into it, and we learned about what the business could be. And as we got into it, we saw, we built a different type of a sales team, by the way. We wanted one that was incredibly customer focused. We hired people and said, look, you've got to be customer focused. We want you to go to our customers and tell them, we want you to proactively lower our customers' bills, right? We want you to go find ways that they're using AWS wastefully and cut their bills down. And
this is not part of the enterprise software sales.
And exactly, and people are like, our salespeople are like, well, that's kind of refreshing. Like, okay, awesome. Like, I don't have to like hide that under the covers. And customers were like just floored that we would possibly think like as a technology company come and help them lower their bill. And we've been doing it for 20 years now, and we continue to do it. And we're not always perfect at it. We find other ways to do it, but we're launching products, we're launching features, we're launching capabilities to try to help people. Because every time we saw where we would lower their bill, they would use more. It'd be like they free up budget to go launch a new product, which would drive their revenue, but then they would drive more. And so it was a real positive flywheel effect for us. But it's a very different type of a sales support organization than had existed in the past.
Yeah.
All right, so now going back to this trajectory you've been on, all these different roles you've had, you get in a time machine, you go back 20 years, you get to give yourself some advice about the future, save yourself some missteps or some frustration, or what are you imparting on yourself?
That's a good question. Well, there's a ton of things that I would do differently, but I'm also quite happy with where I am, so like I wouldn't want to mess any of those things up.
This is the whole path dependency question.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't like a sliding door situation where I somehow mess it up, but because I do it's like, and I think all of even when we have like the worst times actually, and I'll use this yes, like what I love, if you go to the early days of AWS, we had some like major outages where we like took down the internet for like 4 days. Wasn't really that bad, but it like felt that way internally that's what we were doing. Like we take it so personally because customers trust us with their operations and their data, and would I have loved to like avoided that entirely? Like yeah, except we learned a ton of really valuable things from that, and our services today are way better because we learned some of those lessons. I wish we would have found cheaper, less painful ways to learn those lessons for sure. But from a business perspective, there's so I kind of it's a fun question to ask, and like it's really hard because a lot of the bad things and bad choices you made, or even bad hires that you made, are such good learning opportunities that if you learn from them, you have to learn from them, by the way. So like you gotta make sure you don't like to make that mistake again. But I don't know that you could be in the same place, or the products could be in the same place, or the people could be in the same place if you didn't get to have those crappy experiences.
That's always the honest answer. It's like we get asked that question sometimes, and like we made some really dumb things. We changed the name of the show at one point in time. Like we
interrupted the compounding unnecessarily several times.
We did some really dumb things, but like, would I change?
But maybe you don't end up with like a pretty fantastic show. Like who knows? Like you take the wrong path, and so it's hard to say, right? Particularly when you end up in a pretty good spot. If you end up in a spot that like you're not happy with, and there's lots of things that I would like to be better, by the way. So I think you're, one of the things that's another Amazon kind of mentality is thinking about like our one of the things we love is our customers are perpetually displeased. Like they always want more, they always want you to do things differently, which is great. It means there's huge opportunity to always get better, and we take that really seriously. Like we are never pleased with our performance. We never think that we're never going fast enough. Our operational performance, anything below 100% is not good enough. We always want to drive costs down and performance up, and and all that being said, I think we've built a good business and a pretty exciting customer community here.
All right, my favorite closing question recently. What's something you've changed your mind on that you used to be really sure of and you're now very sure of the opposite?
I have two. Number one, back in 2013, I was really sure that the Seahawks were going to be a dynasty.
I thought you might be. This was going to be part of the
That
answer.
did not work out. But we're back. We have
Pretty good
we have a
this
good
year.
team again. So I know we both live in Seattle.
Well, thanks to the San Francisco 49ers quarterback rehabilitation program.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But in a more serious answer, I will say, I remember, I'll get the timing right, but it was wrong, but it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. We had a leadership meeting across Amazon. And I will tell you, one of the things I was absolutely most worried about for the future of AWS and for Amazon was we were charting a path on where we thought the business could be and the growth and the number of SDEs that we thought it was going to take to get there. And we thought the world would not have enough SDEs for us. We were literally like, I'm going to have to hire 1 million SDEs to deliver the code.
You're going to have to do the
at the rate that we're doing and where we want to get to and
yeah.
whatever. And we're like, the world is not producing SDEs at that rate. And I thought that was going to be our single biggest constraint to growth. And I do not think that today. We still have the need, by the way, for great SDEs, but I actually think the growth in the AI world is going to be ideas. Before, it was like we had way more ideas than we could possibly get to. And I think because you can deliver things so fast, your constraint is going to be great ideas and great things that you want to go after. And I would never have guessed that 10 years ago.
Fascinating. Well, that's where we're going to leave it.
Awesome.
Matt.
Cool. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate you doing this for us, so thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you.
Great to see you. Thanks a lot.